Shirt Christmas. Hey everybody, I'm wearing my Christmas shirt. I'm your host Kelsi here for WrestlingNewsCo, and I am joined by my sometimes, most of the time, co-host Paul. How are you guys doing? What did you guys think of Monday Night Raw? Right off the bat, I gotta say it was better than last week, like by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, much better show this week. Even with the nonsense to start the show, that was at least comical because Lana was so terrible and Rusev,
oh my God,
Rusev was pretty funny. So if that was the worst part of the show, it was definitely a much better show. Better matches this week. And except for they almost didn't finish the last match before they ran out of time, which is very rare for WWE to do. We joked about AEW last week, having to rush the end of their match. Well, the ending of this was suddenly like 1, 2, 3. All right, he wins. Bye.
Yeah, it was ridiculously quick. And like you said, they like put up the copyright.
Yeah,
before the match was even done.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It's like, we want to get out of here. Because usually they are okay with going like 5 minutes over. So it was quite odd that they just rushed it so much. I would say that's probably one of the weakest points of the show is the very, very end, only because it was rushed so much and because of also that awkward attempted Styles clash that didn't quite work out. But other than that, like I really liked most of the matches tonight. There were some quick ones, but that happens right now. And then that's what happens in WWE a lot, and it's okay if like it progresses things.
Well, you talked about the botch, though. It shows how good Styles and Mysterio are. They were able to cover it fairly quickly as AJ was able to beat up on him and hit a Styles clash in the ring. So they covered pretty quick, but yeah, it didn't look good.
No, it didn't. And it actually looked like he like tweaked his back or something at first because he had a hard time like pulling himself apart from Mysterio. Then he kind of like limped away, or not limped. It was more like hunched over, walking away. But yeah, at first I was like, oh no, that looks really terrible. But it is what it is. We got more story with the Orton Styles thing, and everything's progressing.
Yeah, and we got some matches set for tables, ladders, and chairs as we'll take you through all of the show tonight shortly. But again, much better show, and we welcome all of you who are joining us. Plenty of you joining us, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to everyone watching right now. We truly love to interact with you, and we love to know your thoughts about the show. So leave them in the comments. We do try to read as many comments as we can. Sometimes we miss them, so please forgive us if we don't get to yours, but we will try. I can see a whole bunch of people saying hello. Calvin, Sammy, O-Game, PFFP, of course, our great friend Dave Pozeski. Then we've got our new friend Ben and Bubble Boy 02 Matthew. Thanks, guys, for joining. What'd you think overall?
Derek Stark.
Oh, Derek, hey, how you doing? What'd you guys think of the show? I thought actually, so I graded last week's show a D+, I think, if I remember correctly. I'd say this show was an A-.
Oh, I don't
maybe
know.
A B+.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it was because it was so bad last week and I hadn't watched live in a while that this was like a pleasant surprise.
Well, Ben's going with a number grade of 7.5 out of 10, which is, I guess, 75%, which was when you were in school was like a C, right? 75% was a C?
I guess.
Maybe.
I got 95s and up, so I don't really know.
Oh, Miss Smart Girl. Miss Professor. I think you're being a little generous. I think I'd say B- for the show.
It was just such a step up from last week.
Yeah, it definitely was.
So I just can't help but grade it a lot higher. And there was some really, like, even though I don't like the Lana, Lashley, Rusev thing dragging out. I mean, we had that for such a long period of time on last week's show. But it made me laugh, I got to say, this week. And even though I don't like it, at least Rusev is super over. Not only is he over, but he's awesome as hell because he's wearing amazing T-shirts. The other day, he had a Bob Ross spoof T-shirt on where like Bob Ross was painting a guy lifting weights, and then this week he has an angry Donald Duck face shirt. Incredible shirts. I don't know what it is with Rusev, but I'm really liking his clothing choices. It's quite appropriate, especially for tonight with an angry Donald Duck face. And he had like an angry segment where he was kind of like funnily yelling at Lana, but not really.
I did notice, I don't know if you guys noticed the sign in the crowd, and I don't know if security took it away because it was held up once during that segment and wasn't held up again. It said Lana and Lashley deserve better.
Or Lana and Rusev deserve better,
No,
right?
I think it was Lana and Lashley.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you said Lana and Rusev when you read it to me.
No, Lana and Lashley.
Well, there's this great quote. Like Lana was stumbling and bumbling through her lines, which actually I thought added to the segment kind of because it was just so absurd. And another thing that added to the segment was Rusev was like, "This is ridiculous," and you were like, "You could say that again."
Yeah.
And even Lashley called it ridiculous. So it's like, wow, it's almost like they're poking fun at the segment in the segment.
Yeah, exactly.
That was what was kind of cool. It was almost like self-referential. But one of the best parts was, "You are the most selfish monster." And Lana goes crazy. Like, I can't even do a good impersonation. It was so over the top. There's this one part where she's like falling over and just whining. And I got to say that was pretty funny because it was so bad. Like Troll 2, which is one of my favorite movies. So
Bubble Boy says there was too much talking in his opinion. There's always too much talking in WWE. There's no doubt. But again, compared to last week,
it felt like less.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was like the Cliff Notes version of talking.
Yes.
Because there was so much less of it.
Well, I did enjoy Rollins' heel turn, and we'll get to that like as we go through the show, but that was a real highlight of the show, and that's one of the reasons why I graded it so high. You know, I wanted to see that last week, so finally we did get to see it, and I was pleased, especially with the KO beatdown was so extreme. And I liked how he was like hiding in the van. You didn't even know somebody was in that van.
No, I didn't even know.
It was like a plant, like a trick. I liked it a lot. It was well done.
Mid-Car Maniacs likes your Lana impersonation. Want to do that again?
Monster! I can't do it good. I really can't. She did a lot better.
Apparently, he thinks you were dead on it.
Thank you so much. But you know, it did last a while. Like people are saying in the comments, a lot of talking. I see a grade, a C plus. That was Ben saying is 75 is like a C plus. So that equates to being about right. I don't know. I don't watch Raw live that often until recently, so it's just a pleasant surprise. That's why I'm grading it high.
What's funny is really last week's super amount of talking would have made more sense this week, the week of a pay-per-view. You'd expect less action on the week of the pay-per-view, but it was actually much more action. Just about everybody who's going to be involved in the pay-per-view wrestled tonight in some form or had some sort of physicality in some form, whether it was Charlotte getting attacked or Becky, Kabuki Warriors, you know, both Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black were in action. So to me, it was a much more action-packed show than you would expect the week of a pay-per-view.
Although quite predictable matches overall in some cases. Like we knew who was going to win and lose right away, but it's still, I think these matches, there were more of them, like you said, and they progressed things forward a little bit at least. I feel like TLC still doesn't feel like it's this week though. And that's a weird feeling, you know, it's the week of a pay-per-view and I'm like, there's a pay-per-view? Oh yeah. It feels like we just had one and there's not a lot developing.
I saw last week where it was reported that Vince supposedly had made the decision to hold off on announcing all the matches for TLC because the rationale was that they don't get that many advanced buys anyway off of announcing when the pay-per-view, what the pay-per-view card's going to be. So he thinks maybe this is going to build some sort of buzz. I don't know if that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are either going to buy the network or they're not. I'm not sure I buy that as an excuse, but I think it's also that they sometimes rush into storylines that they're come up on a pay-per-view and they don't have storylines ready.
That could very well be, but I'll tell you a storyline that is going quite well so far, at least in my opinion, is the Becky, Charlotte, Kabuki Warriors storyline. I think that's really going well right now and being set up quite good. And of course, they're going to match up at TLC, so that's a successful build there. And who knows, we could even see Asuka and Becky Lynch continue afterwards onto WrestleMania season. I don't know for sure, but it seems like it's something bigger here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fantastic match. I'm glad they're doing it. I hope the Kabuki Warriors actually retain.
Me too,
because Charlotte, you know, it's the thing. I'm not a big fan of when somebody who's not a true tag team, they just kind of come together. I know Charlotte and Becky have tagged together a few times, but I would rather see the Kabuki Warriors win that because they're a true tag team.
But it's funny that you say that criticism when New Japan throws people together to tag all the time.
Yeah, but they don't end up winning the title very often.
Well, that's true.
There are people that are thrown together, but who are the long-reigning tag team champions in New Japan?
Real
Evil and Sonata,
Sho and Yo. Yeah, real traditional tag teams. That's true. But for a while, like Evil and Sonata were just put together.
Yeah, true.
But I understand what you're saying, and I do agree because I think they're better as enemies, Charlotte and Becky, than they are as tag partners. Although it makes an interesting dynamic. Obviously, them not getting along during the match maybe could be a reason why they will lose the match. So it might not be completely clean, which might be the best thing. We'll have to see. Or they're going to use, their hatred for Asuka and Zayn and really amp up their performance. I don't know yet, but either way, you could play either side.
A few people are weighing in on the Seth Rollins heel turn. Ben said we all saw it coming a mile away, but I'm still waiting for his heel laugh.
Me too. I love that heel laugh. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Zach says, I like the Seth Rollins heel turn, but I feel like it was necessary because of the angles he's been put in that sort of made him corny and hokey, which is absolutely true.
100% true, because he was very corny, like extremely. In fact, in his speech, I wrote down some quotes from his speech. He references like he's done everything he can do. He's put himself out there, and yet it's not enough. What in 2019 is enough? So it's almost like, again, referencing reality in the storyline, which I always like. I think that's some of the best storylines, when you can reference a little bit of what's actually happening outside of the ring in real life. And, he's been attacked on social media, not attacked, but he's been criticized on social media for being just over the top company guy, definitely corny. And his promos just, as a good guy, I just don't buy him as much as a smarmy, cocky heel guy. He's way better at that, in my opinion.
And I don't know if you saw either backstage or heard us talking about it on the podcast this week, but Seth Rollins was really good on backstage, talking about how the crowd is at that point, he wasn't fully embracing the turn, but he's like, the crowd chants along to burn it down, and then they're booing me. So he goes, they don't know what they want. Well, I think they know what they want, and they want him to be a heel.
I think so. And in my opinion, he was always better as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
Just have him go that direction, and I think instantly people are going to somehow like him.
Yeah.
Like he might not get booed that much longer, which, I don't know. It's a weird thing with heels nowadays. People cheer the bad guys, but I don't know. I just think whether or not he's cheered or booed as a heel, doesn't matter. He really excels in that role overall. And the whole speech was well done afterwards, explaining why he turned. Like I said, it was kind of blaming the WWE universe, blaming everybody for being so harsh on him. He's put his body on the line. So just cocky heel type of stuff. I don't know. I love it.
Well, and you brought up the thing about being a company guy on Twitter. That's also something else he addressed on backstage, that a lot of his stuff is in good fun, like his jousting with Will Ospreay and stuff, which it probably is, but he was over the top company man.
Well, yeah, and it just touting about his paycheck and all that, that's a little hard to swallow sometimes when you see somebody talking about that. But I don't know, it was all in good fun, like you said, jabs. But I like how they even mentioned Will Ospreay at all on backstage. That's why that backstage segment really surprised us, and we truly enjoyed it, actually. So that was very surprising. I was thinking it was just going to be a highlight show. Why even watch it? But ever since CM Punk came on, it's been pretty intriguing to me.
Mr. Fluffy says they're bad on storylines as of now. I would argue that they're intermittently pretty bad on storylines because they don't stick to things, or they kind of rush things.
I've got a great example of this. So we're seeing this whole Lana, Bobby Lashley, right, Rusev divorce angle. I guarantee you by next year, the year 2020, which we're almost in, I guarantee you that at some point they'll be working back together, and they'll be, quote, back together in terms of relationship, Rusev and Lana,
mm-hmm,
and then they will never mention this divorce angle ever again. They'll pretend like it never happened. That's classic WWE. There's just no consistency with storylines sometimes. There's no long-term memory anymore. There used to be actually quite a bit. They used to reference things that happened a long time ago. They used to have storylines that would last for a year leading into WrestleMania. That just doesn't happen anymore. Now, this storyline with Lana and Rusev has gone on a long time. I just have a feeling next year they'll be like, it didn't happen. It never existed.
Yeah, I would not be surprised in the least. A few other comments, and then we're going to start going through the show a little bit. We already started with the Lana and Rusev.
Yeah.
Ben says, who would take the titles from the Kabuki Warriors? I don't see any women from SmackDown or Raw. I honestly feel since the releases, we might get call-ups, but that wouldn't help things. Look,
Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, I feel like could get the championships at one point.
Well, and I wouldn't mind seeing Asuka. I think they already did once. Asuka and Kairi Sane go down to NXT they could wrestle a women's team down there. I think there are some possibilities.
Yeah, I mean,
for
it would have to
competition.
be like, obviously, I think Bliss and Nikki are on SmackDown, so it would have to be some kind of cross thing. But
Well, no, the tag team champs can go wherever.
they can?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah,
even
because
I haven't watched WWE live in a long time, so I didn't even realize that or remember.
Yes, no. So the women's tag champs can go anywhere. So they've been. I think they have been on NXT once already.
Yeah, no, but I don't remember them being on Raw because Alexa just returned.
No, I'm talking about the Kabuki Warriors can be.
Oh, okay.
So they can bounce to any show.
So they can go.
So then if Nikki Cross and
Bliss
won, then they could bounce around any show.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But I want them to challenge like the Kabuki Warriors or challenge anybody. Because they could be a good tag team, which would set up the eventual heel turn between Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss.
For sure.
That's what I want. I want them to be tag teams specifically for the turn that I know is eventually going to happen to be more impactful. So I don't care who they win it against, but they should win it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, he was just asking who could it be from either brand, and I think that's who it could be.
Yep, I agree. Zach says, what's up with Lana? From the past 5 years, she's been involved in love angles with Dolph. And
I know.
And that Rock promo.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
It's all ridiculous. I don't get it. It's like, does she prefer those angles or what? Or they're just like, we're just going to do that.
They've just got no ideas for her. They tried to have her as a wrestler. That wasn't good. So
she was wonderful as the valet for Rusev. She really was a great heel valet.
Let's start going through the show a little bit.
Let's go with KO being interviewed by Charlie. He got away from AOP last week, he said, but that's going to be a problem this week for the AOP because I'm going to be going to look for them. So he goes all over backstage looking for them. Anybody seen AOP? He gets a smart mouth comment from Mojo Rawley. So he slaps him and lays him out essentially. But also he runs into Rey Mysterio. Mysterio's like, I got your back. And he's like, oh, I don't want to involve you in this. He's like, no, my homie's got your back. And he's calling like his steel post a homie.
Right.
So he gives it to him, and then Kevin's walking around swinging the steel bat. That actually happened before the Mojo Rawley thing because he had that in his hand when he had that encounter with Mojo. But either way, I like KO just kind of single track minded, looking for AOP no matter what. Doesn't matter the price that he has to pay to find them. He's going to do whatever it takes to get to them. I really, really like that storyline a lot.
Zach is convinced that Rusev and Bobby Lashley will become tag team champs.
No way.
Zach is saying, book it. WrestleMania. Book it. So write it down, Zach. You can say you called it on, what is today? December 9th?
Yes.
During our Raw review. If it happens, you can pat yourself on the back.
Well, here's an interesting thing on Raw that I thought, I wasn't really happy to see. Matt Hardy comes out, of course, dressed like the Hardy Boys, Hardy, not like the woken Matt character that I want to see from Free the Delete. If you guys aren't keeping up with his YouTube channel, he's doing some incredible content. I actually did a video on this YouTube channel you're watching right now, Wrestling News Co. I did a whole video about Free the Delete, excuse me, and why it's so good. It's some of the best stuff being produced off of TV, and excuse me, now I've got the cough like you did last week.
You got a drink. No, you did a fantastic video, really in depth, talking about Free the Delete and your desire to see Broken Matt back.
Yeah, I really want to see him back, and people are speculating, is he going to stay in WWE or is he going to leave? And to me, it's still not clear because you get little hints of references to the Broken Universe and to his outside of WWE videos with even Drew McIntyre, who came out and started insulting his family. McIntyre says, I'll save you from being broken. So that's a little wink, wink, nod, nod kind of thing. I don't know. So are they going to do something with this character, make him on the verge of a mental breakdown, and that's how he becomes broken and returns to TV, unites with the Fiend probably? I don't know. Or he truly is leaving, and that's why he's being booked so bad to lose. Yeah,
because you knew he wasn't going to win this week. You knew he wasn't going to win last week when he wrestled.
No, it was 2 weeks
ago. 2 weeks ago. Who was that against? Buddy Murphy? Yeah, Buddy Murphy. But Drew was brutal on the mic.
Yeah, he said, you've done some great things inside the ring, but you've made some bad decisions outside of the ring, and your kids will probably follow in your footsteps. And I was like, holy, that's pretty intense, man. So that was kind of extreme.
Yeah.
Why would you call out his kids like that? I mean, I know it's wrestling and
Yes.
McIntyre's a heel, but like that hits home, man.
Yeah,
hardcore.
no, that was hardcore for sure.
That's some of the best heel work though. So I think it worked pretty good.
Drew is growing on me. I was bored with him, like the Roman feud going into WrestleMania. I was, just not into it, but Drew has had some really good matches in the last 3 or 4 weeks and has been impressive, I think.
I do think that he's a little more enjoyable, not as kind of humdrum. Him being so heelish on the mic has really helped. And I don't know what it is about the way they're presenting him lately, but yeah, I find him more enjoyable as well. I'm on the same wavelength as you. Also interesting to note, after Hardy lost to McIntyre, in a kind of quick fashion, in my opinion, he had some interesting tweets on his Twitter account, so I'd go check those out. He is thanking people for supporting his broken gimmick and that they'll get through the losing streak when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that again, that hints to him maybe leaving.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a possibility, and we'll see. I mean, I think he's better as the broken character for sure, but it does feel like he should be involved in tables, ladders, and chairs.
I know, like the history's there.
Yeah.
They even mentioned it on commentary as well. Like such a big part of the history of TLC. It'd be a shame for him to have nothing to do on the pay-per-view. But really, nothing's set up for him.
No.
If he is involved, it'll be something random, I'm sure, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It would, in fact, he'd probably be involved in another squash match of some sort.
Yeah, probably, and sadly. But again, if this was part of a storyline, I don't mind it. If he's like going to the brink of, mental disaster, and then he has to become broken to overcome this losing streak, maybe that's how they're going to play it off. I don't know. Or he's leaving, which I wouldn't mind either, honestly, because he could do great things outside of WWE too. And moving onwards, there was a lot of other good things. Charlotte approaches Becky backstage, who's randomly writing in some kind of diary, which was really just random.
Dear diary.
And then she just closes
My
it.
fiance is turning into a heel.
Yeah, that has to be what she's doing. She's got to let the venting out somewhere, because it was a little odd when she came out for her match right after the whole Seth Rollins thing happened. It was like a little awkward. She has nothing to say or doesn't have any kind of look on her face after her fiance went crazy.
So Charlotte came and tried to get Becky to team with her. Becky said, "I've got some old debts to collect." Talking about Asuka and, like you said, maybe pushing a storyline of Asuka and her again down the road. That's
when the Mojo Rawley thing happened after that. And like I said, KO kind of let loose on him because he was just being a smart mouth. And the reason that's important is because it comes into play later with a surprise appearance of Sami Zayn, and we'll get to that. But after the Mojo segment, we've got the Viking Raiders having an open challenge. They declare, we're going to face whoever, because for weeks we've been searching for worthy opponents, but all we've found are victims. Let the raid begin. And I like that issue of the challenge a lot. And of course, we love the Viking Raiders. Then Street Profits come out and they accept the challenge. And this was kind of a quick match too, but it was a decent match.
Decent, but it
wasn't the best.
It was too quick. I mean, I know they're going to go at it down the road, but yeah, I thought that was going to be a better, longer match.
Yeah, and you did think that, I think it was Eric kind of overthrew Ford a little bit when they were going into the finisher, so it didn't look completely clean and smooth.
It looked worse live than on the replay, because it almost looked like he missed catching him, but he did kind of catch him as opposed to around the stomach, more around like the waist, upper thigh area. So that was a little different, but again, I mean, I know they're going to square off again at some point, but that was just kind of a quick match. I would have rather had it result in no result. Yeah,
me too, because that would have made more sense, because these teams could go together against each other again in the future for a longer, better match. So why spoil it here? But I don't know. Teams face each other multiple times. It is what it is. It's not really necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, just a side note, Street Profits have one of my favorite songs in all of WWE.
I know, it's
on my Spotify playlist. I really like that song for some reason. I don't know why.
At the end of the match, they kind of show respect to each other, and then Seth Rollins' music hits, and
chorus of boos.
Yep, crowd boos. He says, you guys can stay in the ring if you want. I got something to say. Street Profits both shake their heads and they go out.
Yeah.
And the Viking Raiders kind of look at him and then they go out, which is kind of to show that he's, doesn't have the locker room behind him kind of thing.
Right. And he says, AOP, I'm here. He basically wants to face AOP to try to prove that he's not involved with them.
Right.
He keeps insisting over and over again he has nothing to do with AOP. Then KO comes out and he's like, well, now I'm going to have to leave to prove that I have no association with AOP. Which really makes no sense at all that he has to leave to prove that. Yeah,
that segment was a little goofy. I don't know. It wasn't sharp, especially because KO is so good. But he kind of was meandering, almost like he was stalling for AOP to come out.
Yeah.
Because he just kind of was rambling a little bit. But obviously they weren't going to come out. But,
right.
So it wasn't the best segment for them.
I did like KO ending the segment by saying, it won't save your ass. After I'm done with AOP, I'm coming to find you. I thought that was really powerful. KO is the best, and he's really one of the best things in all of WWE, but especially on Raw. Every week I enjoy seeing him and what he has to say.
Then AOP appears on screen, and we don't understand what they're saying.
No. They speak completely in a different language. And I like how KO says, all strong points. I can't argue with you on any of them. And that's great because he can't understand. And he really is like, come on, come at me. I'm ready. But who comes out instead? Sami Zayn. And this is really random. Zayn comes out with Mojo Rawley. And at first I didn't even recognize Mojo because it was kind of far away. It's like, who's he with?
Plus, Sami's not on the show. He's on SmackDown, but says he's got a managerial license now.
Yes, but he says, I'm not an agent. You know me. I'm not a manager. What did he say? He was, what was the word he used? I'm a liberator. Yes, I set people free. And I really liked that specific word that he used. I'm a liberator. Now, if you've been checking out social media, you saw that great video of Sami Zayn standing up to the guy who was making homophobic comments. He literally stood up to a guy in the audience who was screaming like bad things. Really cool. Sami Zayn, epically great guy, outside of the ring. He's incredible. So I think it's kind of cool because I really do think in a way he's like a liberator. It was almost like a wink, wink, nod, nod again to me, like to kind of how he was like almost like a hero off TV this week. But it was cool to see him, even though he doesn't really belong there. And of course, it took no time for them to start breaking their own rules, having people go across to different brands they're not supposed to. But like you said, he hadn't, quote, excuse.
Right.
Whatever. It is what it is. It's kind of ridiculous. But he keeps saying, I know that look in your eyes, KO. I'd love to help you. But you've got to tell Mojo that you were wrong to attack him. You embarrassed him. And just going on and on. Then Mojo's like, wait. Look at him. KO, look at Sami Zayn. He deserves you to look at him. And then Sami Zayn is like, whoa. Like, do not talk to him like that.
Like when he's in this frame of mind.
Yes. Yeah. And so, it was a bad idea because Mojo gets stunned. And then.
Well, you got to tell the line, though. He says everybody's tough with a steel pipe in their hand.
We want to test that?
And KO says, let's test that theory. And he tosses him the steel pipe and stuns him.
That was really great. And then he takes the pipe back and hits him.
Mm-hmm.
So don't mess with KO when he's got something on his mind. That's the moral of the story, I suppose. Sorry, I was a little distracted. It's a very cool moment on Monday Night Football. Everybody saluting Eli Manning from the Eagles after they just beat him. Everybody knows it'll be the last time probably Eli Manning plays the Eagles with the Giants. So kind of a cool. That is kind of cool. So, get your football facts from Paul here. He loves football. So see, you're in the perfect view. I can look at you and I can look at the football game. Yeah, I guess. So whatever your excuse is, sure. We got a few more comments. Let's jump in on some of those. Kevin Owens is becoming the top dog. We missed that comment a minute ago. There we are. Kevin is getting the push he deserves, but I don't see anyone taking the title from Brock anytime soon. But it would be awesome if KO did. I would like it better. Fun match. I would like it better than Rollins beating Brock. When that happened, I was like, yeah, that's cool and all. But like KO beating Brock, heck yeah, man. I'd be all for that. Oh my God, the crowd would go crazy when he hits the stunner on Brock. Yes. Oh my God, the crowd would go. It's got to happen. You know what? Continuing on, and by the way, so long, Bubble Boy 02. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your sleep. Aleister Black versus Tozawa. I mentioned to you, Tozawa has gotten a run where he's on Raw every week, which is good for him. And the crowd likes him much more than we saw on 205 Live. But on the flip side, he's getting squashed every week. And this week it was Aleister Black. And Tozawa does that suicide dive
through the ropes, and Aleister Black hits him with the knee. And visually, because it was behind Aleister Black, it looked so much more devastating. It seemed really cool. And and then he hits Black Mask, which always, I think, just looks visually like a devastating move. It's
really
awesome.
does. It like hit him right in the jaw, and it looked really impactful for sure. So yeah, Tozawa keeps losing, but at least he's on TV, and he does seem to be getting a little bit more favor with the crowd. At least that's what you said you observed.
Yeah,
and I kind of agree. People seem to be behind him more than he was just before when he was like on 205.
Not that a New Orleans wrestling crowd is a good gauge, but remember, we saw Tozawa on 205 Live.
It was sad.
And it was like crickets in the Smoothie King Center. So,
well, I mean, it's not really a good gauge, like you said, because New Orleans is a terrible wrestling town now. It never used to be back in the day, but yeah, it was really sad to see the reaction. They had a great match on 205 Live in New Orleans, and like you said, dead. No cheering at all. So at least there's like noise during this match and stuff, and I liked it a lot, especially because we saw Aleister Black do a little promo later saying that basically, Buddy Murphy made a big mistake calling him out. So they're setting up Black versus Murphy.
With me.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Boy, everybody's in a prediction mode. Ben says Aleister Black's going to win the Rumble and beat The Fiend at WrestleMania.
That would be pretty good. I think you said that last week. I think you said something about
I don't think we mentioned
Black.
that. Yeah, did we mention that? I don't know.
I think he said that comment last week, but or not about winning, but about them having a match together, which would be incredible because of the gimmicks, in my opinion. Very eerie and dark and stuff, and be really cool visually. Just even the entrances would be epic and stuff. God, now I want that to happen. I don't even care if there's a story or not.
They could use the pirate ship at Raymond James Stadium, and Aleister Black's thing could come up on the
the mask?
The plank.
Oh, the plank.
They could set it
on
like a plank. That would look cool.
That would look real cool. What a great idea.
Yeah.
So after we see the Aleister Black match, it's kind of funny because we see Vega come out with Andrade right after, and then they face Humberto. And it's funny because obviously we know Black and Vega are going out in real life, and it seems like she's always coming out to the ring with Andrade right after Aleister Black's matches.
Yeah, before or after, yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's like they have it in their contract. Our matches have to be back to back so we can get out.
Or so we could like see each other on the way to and from the ring or something. I don't know. Obviously not, but it's funny to think about it.
That was a great match, by the way. Carrillo.
To me, that was my favorite match on the show besides the Becky Lynch Kabuki Warriors. I thought that was good too, but I really liked the Andrade Humberto match.
Yeah, and then we get the twist at the end too with Andrade kind of blaming Vega for the loss. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a turn there and suddenly she ends up back in Carrillo at some point.
Because they were arguing for a really long time in the ring. She would really help out Humberto a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he could really use like a mouthpiece, and Andrade could just be silent and kind of like deadly. And
he seems like a good kid, but he does need a little more on the charisma factor. So yeah, having Vega with him would be cool. So I could see that being a storyline going forward for a while.
I do have one criticism about the match, even though this is my favorite match of the night. And this is the same criticism I have with a lot of AEW matches or even any non-WWE match, because it kind of happens in all of wrestling. Setups for moves to the outside of the ring where the person receiving the move is just kind of standing around. That happens a lot. Just the setup is way too long. And that happened in this match. It happened when Humberto jumped on the ropes to go on top of the turnbuckle to do a moonsault to the outside. And it just felt like it took too long to set up because he did have to like kind of right himself on the turnbuckle a little bit. And so
he was on the ring post. He was actually
on the ring post on top of the turnbuckle, because the post goes above it. The thing is, you could tell Andrade was just waiting there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what bothers me is, like, you can tell they're waiting there. And then when they go to the shot, you just kind of see him, like, waiting to catch him. That happens in a lot of promotions.
As opposed to the move that happened about 30 seconds earlier, where they did the springboard thing that Carrillo did in the corner, taking Andrade down. That was much more quick. And like in the flow. Yeah,
that was a lot better of a sequence. And that was right before, like you said. Again, it's not enough to grade this match any less. It's just a little small note, and it happens everywhere, to be honest with you. I mean, people say that about, actually, that's one of the biggest criticisms about AEW for some people, that things are, take too long to be set up and some sequences don't make sense. Like, why would they just be standing there to take a move? That's kind of what it felt like for 1 second in this match, but not too bad. So then we go moving right along, onwards on the show. Mysterio cutting a promo. Again, there was a lot of talking, I will admit that, but it just felt like it was talking with a purpose this week versus last week, which had no purpose. Mysterio talks about how it's important to him to have this U.S. title, and his son helped remind him how much the name Mysterio means, and he's proud to have that name, and he really, really wants to defend the belt and, wear the Mysterio name proudly, essentially. So I liked that. It kind of gave the main event some meaning, some extra meaning.
Then as things go along, we finally get the KO AOP showdown as KO goes all the way to the back and spots AOP's car and starts doing a number with the lead pipe on the windshield and on the mirror. And then he busts open the back door and he sees a person in there. You saw a person in there somehow. I didn't see a person.
I don't know why you didn't see it.
But then gets pulled off by AOP.
Attacked from behind, essentially.
Yep. They beat the heck out of him. And then the spot where they throw the back door into his face looked real. I mean,
you even said, like, whoa, didn't you see that? Did you think that looked like legit? I was like, kind of.
I mean, he didn't get a hand up. I'd like to look at that again, because that was kind of crazy. Obviously, something cushioned the blow.
Yeah.
And then there's a reveal as the person in the backseat turns around. They're wearing a hoodie, and of course, it's Seth.
I thought that was so well done. And then the way he just gets out, and then I even quoted what he had to say. He's like, where is it? Oh, here it is. It's a shame it's come to this. I'm sorry. And he curb stomps Owens after he's already like beat down. Great stuff.
Yep.
And that's when he comes out and kind of explains himself. And we kind of already went through this a few minutes ago in the beginning of our post review.
Well, and the good thing about this too is they could have KO and Seth wrestle in this pay-per-view, but I think the curb stomp is going to be an excuse to say Kevin Owens is out for a little while.
Save it for a bigger show,
for maybe
Royal
Rumble. Yeah, because I think you could do a month's worth of build to that to Royal Rumble.
Don't just give it to us right away.
Yeah,
make it build even longer, because it was building before, but now that the turn's there, they can build it further. Keep going, build the tension, build the animosity. Some of the best feuds are done that way. So, and the most effective, of course.
Yeah.
So do it, WWE. Do it, please. Keep it going.
Then we got the match we had talked about, Becky Lynch versus Kabuki Warriors.
Yes. I really liked it, and I loved how it ended with disqualification with Asuka using a chair on Becky, because but I will say, so I mean, Becky looked even stronger against them than Charlotte did last week if she had to have a chair basically thrown into her to lose. So again, we were kind of questioning last week, are these 2-on-1 matches really a good idea? Kind of, doesn't it make you question the tag champs a little bit?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it did make them, I guess, seem vulnerable because they weren't that dominant, but they were dominating Becky early. So it's kind of a back and forth, because you want to show Becky as, the man. So they want to have her be competitive, but just like Charlotte last week, 2-on-1. Should still be a 2-on-1.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing, I skipped one thing in the notes that you wrote down. When they were loading Kevin Owens into the ambulance, and they couldn't figure out how to get the stretcher in, and they keep putting him in and pulling him back out. I'm like, they're going to end up dropping him if they're not. And finally they cut off the shot because it was becoming so awkward that they couldn't figure out how to get the stretcher folded up and roll him into the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny point in the show. But back to the Becky Kabuki Warriors match, there was one point that I actually really liked where Becky put Asuka in an Asuka lock. That was kind of unique, you know? I liked that a lot, kind of like mocking her own move, using her own move against her. Powerful stuff there.
Yep. I liked the Kairi Sane elbow drop through the table. Very effective and devastating, and obviously the table is certainly going to be involved in TLC, and I'm assuming it's going to be a full-on TLC match.
Well, yeah, because a little bit later in the show, Charlotte went up to Becky, how'd that go? And, Becky's getting like ice packs from the doctor in the doctor's room. And then Charlotte walks out into the hallway and gets attacked again by the Kabuki Warriors. Then fast forward later to the show, there's another segment in the doctor's office where Becky and Charlotte are sitting there now together because they're both kind of beat up. And want to challenge them? Yeah, but let's up the ante. Tables, ladders, and chairs. So it's pretty obvious we're getting that officially. It's going to be awesome.
Yep, I agree. And I also agree with Ben that last week's match with Charlotte and the Kabuki Warriors was actually the better of the two matches.
I agree with that as well.
It definitely was. But I am definitely looking forward to this match at the pay-per-view, and we'll probably talk a little bit about the pay-per-view towards the end of this, but that's definitely one I'm definitely looking forward to.
Me too. And we did skip over, we kind of barely mentioned it. Zack Ryder had a match against Buddy Murphy, and of course Buddy Murphy won. That kind of sets up Buddy Murphy versus Aleister Black because they both had big wins. So it keeps them both looking strong going into the pay-per-view.
Which is the other match I'm really looking forward to at the pay-per-view.
It should be great, to be honest. It'll probably be an underrated gem for sure. I do want to mention randomly, this has nothing to do with wrestling, but I was reminded about Zack Ryder today because there was a great new Ghostbusters movie trailer for the new Ghostbusters film. And Zack Ryder, a long time ago, was watching this interesting documentary called Ghost Heads, which is all about these people who love Ghostbusters, and they have like their own Ghostbuster clubs all across the country, even across the world. And Zack Ryder was basically interviewed for this documentary. He collects a lot of Ghostbuster toys because, he collects toys, including wrestling toys. Really cool guy behind the scenes. It's a shame he never gets used any kind of other way besides being a tag guy or being a jobber. Like, he shined for a little bit here and there in his career, but, he never gets an extended stay at the top, which kind of sucks in a way because he's got a really unique random personality. I think his outside persona, his real persona, is really cool. And it was awesome to see him in the Ghostbusters documentary thing. And now with the new Ghostbusters movie coming out, check out my Twitter at SuperKickingIt. I actually just asked today, which wrestlers would you have be Ghostbusters? So like, which wrestlers could you see being the best Ghostbusters? And lots of people have been sending in their answers to the Twitter question, and they've been really good.
Cool.
Like somebody said, for example, Xavier Woods would be Egon. That was a really good one because Egon's really nerdy, Woods is really nerdy, and it could totally work. And scientific and smart, so it totally works. So yeah, there's a little side note there. Nerd talk.
You got nerd talk in 2 straight shows.
That's what I'm trying to do.
You did that with the Brandy thing on the AEW discussion.
I know. I talked about the Borg
yes.
On our AEW
Collective,
discussion. Yes, the Borg Collective, because they call themselves the Nightmare Collective. So, there's billions of people reviewing Raw, especially live after the show, but there's nobody talking nerd talk and reviewing Raw all at the same time. There might be a few, but not many.
Can't say nobody.
I know. I went back and I was like, there might be some people, but I'm sure it's not a lot.
Dave says everybody loves nerd talk.
Except
so there you
Grump.
go. I'm fine with it. I just don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You're a man in the living in the shadows because you look like you're in shadows with that hat.
That's right. After another big win. The OC cut a promo on the Viking Raiders saying that the OC will become tag team champs sooner than later because they're the best. And he called out Randy Orton. If you step to me, I'm going to take you out, not for today, not for tomorrow, but for life. Well, forever. And then you could say for life. Yeah, yeah, you got to do it like epic. Yes, I know. I liked and I never caught the guy's name that took on Eric Rowan, but the strategy of grabbing the cage, running to the top of the stage, dropping it off, having Eric Rowan go up there and then run back to the ring and try to win by a countout. It made a squash match seem actually very entertaining. I was going to say the same thing. To me, it was like such a unique way to play out a squash match. It wasn't your typical go in the ring, destroy him, 1, 2, 3, it's done. It's like, man, this guy had some brains and he used them. And I like how mad it made Rowan. Man, that was epic. Yeah. The beatdown was cruel and harsh, but effective. It made him look strong. We did not put this in the notes, but we should discuss this. Ben wants to know about our thoughts on the inductees into the Hall of Fame. I did put it in the notes. I wrote a whole bunch of tweets about Dave Bautista getting inducted. So we did put it in the notes, by the way. Where are they? They're right here. Oh, okay. All my tweets I wrote out. Oh, I didn't go far enough back in your notes. That's why. That's okay. I should have told you we're going to talk about it. Here we go. Get ready for lots of Dave Bautista love. Yeah, I love Batista.
a lot of people don't know, like, yes, he's not the greatest in the ring, but like outside the ring, he's so humble. He's so awesome. I love his acting ability because to me, he's the best wrestler who's come from WWE who's turned actor. I think The Rock's kind of corny, to be honest with you. Just other people have not transitioned to be as natural on the screen as Batista has, in my opinion. Now, if you guys disagree, of course, that's fine. Everyone can agree to disagree. That's one of my favorite sayings, as long as they do it in a respectful way to the other person.
It might be your favorite saying.
It might be, but it's important to be respectful. It's important to have debate, but in a nice way, in a cool way where you don't hurt the other person. But so if you don't like Batista, that's cool. But I'm honestly very happy about him going in, and his colleagues seem to be happy too. So first, let's go through some of his tweets. And we know that the other inductees that were announced today collectively were the NWO. Of course, there's no argument there. They're one of the most historic factions ever. However, all the guys in it have already been inducted. So it wasn't really as much of a rush to get them in. I kind of wish they would get more people in, who haven't already been in.
Like Vader. I know you're big on Vader.
Yeah, when Vader didn't get in and then he passed away, I was appalled, honestly. And I know you could say, well, the Hall of Fame really doesn't mean anything. It's just like a company putting it on. There's like no voting, no nothing like to the public. But it meant something to Vader. He politicianed to get in there. And some people might not like that, but like he really wanted to go in while he was still alive and he didn't. Like that still makes me upset. So, but yet here we are inducting NWO, who all the members are already in. Meanwhile, somebody else is getting left off. That's what bums me out a little bit. But back to Batista. We'll circle back to NWO if you want to. But Batista said on his Twitter, from my first WWE appearance in 2002 to my last appearance in 2019, an amazing journey that's led me to the Hall of Fame. Proud, privileged, and honored to be inducted. # Dream Chaser. He's a really humble guy. Like, people don't know, but I've listened to so many like interviews by him. And they're just heartfelt. He could have, when he came back to wrestle with Evolution, he could have just done TV. He could have just done little appearances, but he did like the house shows and stuff. And that's what Chris Jericho did too. To me, goats who do that. People could be like Brock Lesnar and just be like, I'm going to show up whenever. I'm a big enough name. And Batista, if you agree with me or not, he is a big enough name. His name draws at the box office. He's part of multi-billion-dollar movies.
Yeah.
So to me, yes, his name was big enough. He didn't have to be on the show every week, but he was, and he was on non-televised shows too. So yeah, I was really happy to hear this. Tommy Dreamer tweeted, hearing Dave Batista in the Hall of Fame 2020 makes me happy. He is a solid human being. And then he went on and made some inside jokes between him and Batista. I won't pretend to understand what it's about. Orton tweeted, been up and down the road with Dave Batista for nearly 2 decades. Huge accomplishment for him and a well-deserved honor. And I think the most epic tweet that I seen, I'm sure there's plenty, but I only saw a few. Triple H tweeted, I've stood next to and across from him in the ring and with pride watched him perform on the silver screen. A man who has followed his heart to realize all of his dreams and now adds another accomplishment to the long list of accolades. Congrats.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. And Dave Pazewski agrees with you. Says Rock isn't a good actor, but Batista is a fantastic actor, especially in Guardians of the Galaxy. To circle back to NWO, I totally think it's a well-deserved honor. I mean, that faction changed TV in the 90s, wrestling TV. But I also agree with Ben when he says, I get why X-Pac is in, but not feeling he deserves to be in with NWO.
Yeah.
Completely agree, because if you're going to have X-Pac in there, then you should have Virgil in there and the 18 other guys.
Well, hell, Eric Bischoff.
Right. The 18 other guys that were in NWO, much like I make fun of Bullet Club when they kept adding like 18 people in New Japan. NWO got out of control with how many people. So if you're going to have those people, if you're going to have X-Pac in, then you should have all those people in. Really, it should just be Hogan, Hall, and Nash. They are what NWO was.
Right, I agree with that, because they were that made the hugest splash back in WCW. It was a big deal. It set the wrestling world afire, really, and that's the original 3.
Yeah.
Why cloud it up? And
No, I mean, like, even when I saw the picture, I'm like, why is X-Pac on there? I mean, I know he was in there, but the NWO is Hogan, Hall, and Nash.
Yes, I agree.
So,
1,000%.
And again, I don't dislike X-Pac or anything. I just he's not on the same level as the other three.
So I gotta say, I gave a lot of props to Batista, said how much I love him, but I also love Scott Hall a lot. In fact, the first ever technical wrestling event, you could call it, that I ever went to was the night before his Hall of Fame induction when he went in as a solo guy. Scott Hall did this talk at the House of Blues along with a whole bunch of other people, including DDP, Jake the Snake Roberts. Even Big Show and Ric Flair made an appearance at one point. It was an awesome night, and we got to hear a lot about their struggles overcoming like addiction and stuff. And then I got the opportunity to meet Scott Hall after a Wildcat show, which is our local wrestling promotion here in New Orleans. And he wrestled there, and a whole bunch of people who know people in the promotion went to a bar afterwards. And Scott Hall and we were talking. It was awesome because I had a Scott Hall shirt on, and he was like, "I like your shirt." I was like, "Thanks." It was awesome. Good times.
Yeah. I will withhold comment.
Yeah. What? I wasn't alone. So anyway, it was a lot of fun.
That doesn't matter either.
He was really nice to my friends and I.
Yes.
Who were not all girls.
Oh.
So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. It was awesome. Let's just say that. He was really cool, really down to earth, liked him a lot.
All right, let's kind of wrap up what happened on Raw. The final match was AJ Styles and Mysterio. I wanted to give props to Samoa Joe again.
Oh,
fantastic on commentary. And it was noticeable the King kind of backed off this week, wasn't forcing in a lot of jokes. I don't know if there was an edict to let Samoa Joe talk a little more or whatever, but Joe gives such great insight, and he's so good. I really I'm not ready for him to hang up his boots yet.
He's got a career afterwards.
But the second he does, he should be on one of the announced teams.
I totally agree. He gives that wrestler perspective and really a psychological perspective, because he was talking about, pressure, feeling pressure to perform and all this other stuff when you're in the ring to succeed and all this stuff. I don't know, really getting in depth to the psychology of everything. I liked that a lot. He's a gem. I don't know. He's amazing.
This also was a match that probably could have gone longer, and we talked about how quickly they wrapped things up because they were running out of time. In fact, I think I even heard the ref when he was checking on the wrestlers saying to AJ, 5 minutes left. I almost am positive I picked up hearing that. So I think they knew they were up against it regardless. But some cool moves. Ray's beautiful moonsault to the floor, and then his sunset flip wall bomb is what Samoa Joe called it. Very cool. And I liked Gallows stepping up and absorbing the 619 so that AJ Styles wouldn't get it.
Yes, I liked that a lot too. I will say, well, keep going with the match because I've got one more thing, a dislike to say that we skipped over.
Yeah, well, there's nothing else. We talked about the misstep on the Styles, and then Randy Orton distracting AJ Styles. Mysterio retains.
And then we barely get a look between them.
Yeah, and literally 2 seconds of pad after the match, and that was it.
I know, it was so quickly over. But also, and that's weird because, that's all we see until like Sunday. Well, and SmackDown. But still, It's like, man, that's way too quick.
Yeah.
So another thing I didn't like on the show, overall I rated it pretty high, but some people are liking it, but I really hated the Monday after the weekend update. I thought it was so forced. And also, didn't they just lose like an hour before to the Viking Raiders? And there they are like laughing it up and, chuckling. That's their personality, so I guess it goes with their gimmick, but I just didn't like the Street Profits with a laugh track. The laugh track might be because I hate laugh track in shows too.
Right.
I like nerd stuff, but I hate the Big Bang Theory because of the laugh track. I really do. I can't stand that laugh track. I think it's terrible. It makes the jokes seem like they're not funny, even if they are funny. So it also had it was like not a laugh track. It was a clap track too. Like people going like, yeah, haha, yeah. Not just laughing, but clapping and cheering. So just too much tracks there. And then you cut to a wide of the audience watching the screen, and it looks like nobody's like moving or saying anything. So
no,
I don't think it worked.
That was definitely something that they shouldn't have done, considering that they had just wrestled.
Yeah, it made it seem like the match was inconsequential because they were just having fun and laughing. But that's their personality. So why do you have my clump of hair on the table? It's weird. He just pulled like some hair off the floor, puts it on the table.
This is what I find all around the apartment, wrapped around my feet.
Sorry.
Just clumps of long hair.
I guess you'd find hair and other stuff in the ring too.
I guess so. All All right. So overall, you said you're giving it a B+. I'm giving it a B-.
Not that far apart from my grade.
No.
You were acting like my grade was outrageous.
Well, because you said A-.
Well, because compared to last week, it was pretty darn good. I really do think it was way better than last week.
It was much better than last week.
It's crazy that I'm being so positive about a Raw, but it wasn't so bad.
So, we mentioned that not a lot has been set for TLC, but we got a lot more tonight. So let's quickly go through what we have. This article just came out on WrestlingNewsCo just a little while ago, and it's just kind of an updated list of what we've got for the pay-per-view. Bray Wyatt versus The Miz, tables, ladders, and chairs match between Roman Reigns and King Corbin, SmackDown tag team match between The New Day and The Revival, a ladder match, which they didn't say on the show that was a ladder match, but a ladder match between Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy, so that's going to be epic. Even more. Women's tag team titles match, and it is a tables, ladders, and chairs match.
Yeah, I thought it would be.
Kabuki Warriors versus Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, and then a tables match between Rusev and Lashley. So as we look at those, I think I've already said the ones I'm looking forward to, which I think are kind of the ones you're looking forward to as well.
Which ones did you say? I think the Kabuki Warriors versus Lynch and Charlotte. It's got to be good. I'm actually looking forward to the Revival versus New Day, but I'm sure it won't be that extensive. Of course, Aleister Black, Buddy Murphy. That might be pretty much the second favorite to the women's match.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, because with Corbin and Roman Reigns both being big guys, a tables, ladders, and chairs match between those two is kind of interesting to me too. I'll be interested to see, those two guys navigate the ladder, and
I don't really like the whole dog food angle.
Well, no, that was dumb.
Pouring the dog food and everything. That was weird.
So that's the pay-per-view. That is
far
Sunday night. There's going to be more. I'm sure there'll be some more announcements on SmackDown on Friday. We'll even see if maybe they throw an NXT match in there or something like that.
I'd love that.
And we are doing a review after that?
I think
correct?
We are. Yes, we are.
So we'll have a live review after Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. And, of course, Wednesday night we have the live review after AEW.
Yeah, this Wednesday before TLC, we'll have AEW review. I may or may not check this channel. I'm trying to, but my mom and dad also want to take me out. So I don't know if I'll get to do one or the other or both. But I'm trying to do a Ring of Honor review after Final Battle on Friday night. We'll see, but subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it in case I do the review. I hope I will, but I can't promise it right now.
And you may have some other exciting Ring of Honor content tomorrow, but again, pay attention to the channel. But you might be talking to somebody very interesting from Ring of Honor if it all works out.
Someone who's not human.
Yes.
So look out for that. I'm pretty excited for that interview. Just, cementing the final touches on that, making sure that it's going to happen. So then I'll release more about it and ask for people's questions. So also follow us on social media so you can ask questions for any interviews we have. I'll put out the call for some suggestions for questions at SuperKickinIt, SuperKickingIt. He's at PBoron88, and together, our podcast, we're at TwoFacePod, TWOFACEDPOD. And I do want to say quickly that I've enjoyed doing these Monday night live recap review shows, and we will continue to do them. But for the next 2 weeks, I actually have work stuff to do. So next week, him and I are both working the Saints game. I'm going to be in the control room. We do a post-Saints game show and a pregame show. He'll be actually on the field, at the game filming, so we will not be able to do. I kind of agreed to work that shift before I knew I'd be doing these reviews weekly, and then after that we'll be out of town for Saints as well.
Yes,
I'm actually going for fun on that one, but you're working.
And technically we're not working on that Monday night, so
well, we won't be home in time.
Yeah, exactly. So we won't be able to do it.
But it won't be a regular thing that we won't be able to do these live shows. And be sure to stay tuned to the YouTube either way, because I'm going to be doing some edited videos like the day after Raw on the 17th, because we're going to miss the 16th show. But on the 17th, I'll try to do like a hot topic video of something that may have happened on WWE or Raw or anything in wrestling that's going on that's interesting. So stay tuned for that. Plus, I've got some Christmas content planned too. So I hope you guys will check all of that out. Again, if you want to find more of our content, subscribe to this channel you're watching right now, or go to superkickinit.com, SuperKickingIt.com, and that will bring you to all of our links, to our podcast link, to my YouTube channel link, to this YouTube channel, and to our audio links for our podcast too. So,
and our podcast drops on Friday mornings. Make sure you check that out as we will get you set for TLC and talk about everything that happened in AEW and NXT this week as well.
And thanks to all of you who are watching, and especially to the people who commented and interacted with us, like Ben and Dave Pizeski. Thanks so much, you guys, and thanks to everyone who watched. But that's it for us. Until next time, see ya. That's the finish.